Hello everyone, it's Stat Teacher here, and today's lesson is going to be on fractions. Let's start learning. Welcome back to the channel everyone. We're going to begin our lesson on fractions. Now today's lesson is a beginner's guide to learning fractions. We are going to cover all of the fundamental basics that you will need in order to be successful in your journey of beginning to learn fractions. With that said, let's get straight into the lesson. Now, fractions are numbers that represent a part of something whole. They show how many parts make up a whole. Now, understanding fraction parts is extremely important. The example on the screen is 1/4. Now, the 1 is called the numerator. So the numerator is the top number in a fraction that tells how many parts of the whole you have. So it can be any number, it doesn't have to be a 1, but the example here is a 1. The numerator is the top number. Now the bottom number, in this case, is a 4, but the bottom number in a fraction is called the denominator. Now the denominator is the bottom number in a fraction that shows how many parts the whole is divided into. So if I gave you a chocolate bar and I cut it into 4 pieces, we're going to use this example. The denominator, so the whole chocolate bar has been cut into 4 equal parts. So the denominator here would be 4. The chocolate bars have been cut into 4 parts. Now the numerator, if I gave you one of those 4 pieces, 1/4 of that chocolate bar, the numerator tells how many parts of the whole you have. So you have 1 piece of the 4 pieces that the chocolate bar was originally cut into. So that's just a little example to sort of visualize it. So think of it like that. Chocolate bar cut into 4 pieces. You received one of them. You have 1/4 of that chocolate bar. Now here's a little bit extra. I want you to go to your teacher tomorrow and ask them, do you know what the line separating the numerator and the denominator is called? That line in the fraction is called the vinculum. So I'm going to say it again, the vinculum. Now, the vinculum is the line in the fraction that separates the numerator and the denominator. So like I said, go to your teacher tomorrow, give them a little quiz. I guarantee you they will be so impressed that you know what the vinculum is. And I even think that some teachers out there might not even know what it is, so you're going to blow them away even more. Let me know how you go. If your teacher has an awesome reaction, write it in the comments below. Let me know. Now, here are some tips for remembering the numerator and the denominator. Some of the students get confused when they're learning the fraction parts for the first time. They get confused, is the denominator the top number or the bottom number, or the numerator the top, vice versa. So here are some easy ways to remember it. Now, numerator. Think of north on a compass. So numerator, N for numerator, N for north, pointing upwards. That is the top number. Now the denominator. Think of the starting letter of the denominator, the D. D for denominator and D for down. So the bottom number pointing down is the denominator. So those are 2 simple tips and tricks just to remember numerator and denominator. Let's move on. Now we have a fractions chart here. This is a crucial piece of information that will greatly assist you during your learning of fractions. Now, I'm telling you this because even older students, such as the students in my year 6 class, some of them find it helpful to utilize this fractions chart when they're learning fractions. There's so many different elements when you're learning fractions, and having the fractions chart when you're just beginning to learn it is extremely important. So I highly recommend, go and ask your teacher, can you please have a fractions chart? And they'll go and print you one up. And while you're at home, just go on Google, type in fractions chart, print one out for yourself. It will help with our coming lessons and just learning fractions in general. So we're going to quickly go through the fractions chart so you have an understanding of what each fraction is called, okay? So the orange bar is 1 whole. That whole has not been broken into any parts, so you have the entire thing, you have 1 whole. Now if we go down below to the yellow bar, the bar has been broken into 2 parts. So when you have 2 parts, the 2 as your denominator, that is called a half. So when your whole is broken into two parts, it is broken into halves. Now we're going to the next number, the 3, when your whole is broken into 3 parts. Now that would be thirds, okay? So if you have one piece of those 3 parts, you have 1/3. If you had 2 of those pieces, you would have 2/3. So when you have 1/3, you don't add the S on the end, but when you have multiple, you need to add the S, so it becomes thirds, 2/3. Now going to the next number, your whole has been broken into 4 equal parts. Now the reason I'm going through this is because recently students in my class have made this simple mistake. So I wanted to stop and prevent you from making the same mistake. Now that 4 is called a quarter. It is not called a fourth, okay? So if I had one of those 4 pieces, I have 1/4. If I had 2 of those 4 pieces, I would have 2/4. So remember, just add the S on the end. So don't call them fourths, you need to call them quarters, okay? Going into the next row, our whole has been broken into 5 pieces. Now I want you to think of this as a little trick. If you came in position 5 in a running race, you would come 5th. So when you're talking in fractions, you need to say 5th, TH on the end. Now, so if I had one of those pieces, one of those 5ths, I would have 1/5. Now, if you have multiple 5ths, you need to put an S on the end. So if I had 2/5ths, you need to say 5ths and put the S on the end. I'm really emphasizing it because you just need to add that S when you have multiple 5ths, okay? So if you have 1/5, you can just say 5th, but once you go beyond 1, you need to say 5ths. Now, moving to the purple row, our whole has been broken into 6 equal parts. Think of a running race. You finish in position 6, you came 6th, okay? So I have 1/6. Now, if you have more than one, remember, put the S on the end. You need to say, for example, I had 4/6. Now that one's a little bit of a tongue twister, but give it a bit of practice at home. But like I said, 4/6. Now we go to the next row where our whole has been broken into 8 equal pieces. I'm gonna keep saying it, think of a running race. Anything past that quarters is gonna sound like this. 8ths, so you came 8th in a race, you have 1/8, but if you have more than one, you have multiple 8ths. So you need to say 3/8, 5/8, etc. Finally, we go to our final row. Our whole has been broken into 10 equal pieces, equal fractions, equal parts. So we need to say, like, if you finish in position number 10 in a running race, you finish 10th. So if you had 1/10, you would have 1/10. But if you have multiple, so for example, you had 3 of those pieces, you would have 3/10. So thank you so much for watching this lesson. Now, hopefully that has helped you with just some fundamental basics of fractions. Our next lesson is going to be identifying fractions, and you're going to use every piece of the information you learned today when you're learning the next step of our process of learning fractions. So thank you very much. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do that. It helps me a lot. But with that said, it's that teacher. We'll see you in the next lesson.